Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Girl rents a room using the employee discount, proceeds to have her sister and a friend get so drunk I end up calling the police 3 times. The second story. My former boss is still unemployed. The third story. I was fired because of this stupid Karen. The first story is, don't let your drunk family get you fired. For context, there's me, Night Warrock, OM, a person using an employee discount and claims she's an operations manager where she works. DG, really drunk girl with OM, and OM sis, OM sister. I see OM entering the lobby basically carrying DG. She plops DG down in one of my lobby chairs and comes to the desk being super drunk, loud, needing a key. She says OMS has her ID, but then starts to spout off all kinds of personal information at the top of her lungs. I advise her to quiet down, then attempt to ask a few questions to ID her. I ask for email address. She tells me the hotel she works at. I ask for zip code. I get her phone number. I let her know this will go much better for everyone if she pays attention to the question I'm asking. I finally get her info and give her a key. As she walks back to DG, we both see DG is now on her hands and knees in the lobby. OM starts yelling at her super loudly, so I go over and tell her to quiet down, then address DG. I ask if she's okay. I get a grunt. I advise her if she cannot stand up, I would need to call paramedics. She gets to her feet with OM's help, and they head off to the elevator. I wait about 30 seconds, then jump in another elevator and head up. A full floor below theirs, I hear OM yelling at DG to get up. As I get off the elevator, I tell OM to shut up, pick up her friend, who's kneeling in a puddle of you-know-what, and get to their room. They manage to make it to their room and I head off for cleaning supplies. I come back to the puddle to find OM trying to clean it up, in tears saying she's an operations manager, where she works, and doesn't want to get fired. I assure her she's not getting fired for this. Just go to her room and in the future don't let your friend drink so much. About 45 minutes later, I get a call from a guest, stating there's a man and woman banging on doors and being really loud in the hallway. I head up and find a guy and girl laying on the floor outside of a room I know is vacant. I advise them to quiet down, that they can't lay in my hallway, and ask what room they're in. The girl starts yelling that she's an elite member. We can't treat her like this. She's gonna have me fired, etc. I finally find out she's in a room with her sister, OM. I try explaining to OM sis that she's on the wrong floor, but she's having none of it. She continues to bang on the wrong door, getting louder and louder. I advise her if she didn't come with me, I'd call the police, and she'd be removed from the hotel. She doesn't care, so now I've got officers coming. The guy is just some rando she met out drinking. I advise him if he's still here when the police arrive, he gets a free trespass form as well. He decided the smart move was to leave. While waiting for the police, OM sis is screaming how she's gonna have me fired. Her daddy owns the hotel. Even a few, I'll smack the SH out of you. FYI, she's 5 foot and maybe 110 pounds. I'm 6'1", 280 pounds, and while I don't like to hit women, you strike me and I'll return the favor. At one point, OM sis decided to go down to the lobby, possibly looking for another employee to assist. Bad luck, I'm the only one here. Just as we hit the lobby, in walks an officer who takes her outside. He eventually gets her to leave, having given her the official trespass paperwork and almost arresting her as she threatened to smack the SH out of the responding officers, and advises me to call if she comes back. 30-ish minutes go by and OM sis comes back through the front doors, looks at me and starts to yell loudly how my coworker is an a-hole, and she's getting him fired. I'm already on the phone with 911, and as I get in the elevator with her, she realizes I was the previous a-hole. The 911 dispatcher can hardly hear me over her yelling how she'll again get me fired. She'll smack the SH out of me, her daddy owns the hotel and everyone's getting fired, yada yada yada. This time she goes to the correct room and attempts to slam the door in my face. Sadly for her, I'm holding the door open with my foot. I speak to OM to advise her police were on the way, and when they get here, OM sis is most likely heading to jail. OM sis starts yelling that we left her with some rando guy, and she could have been attacked. The same random I found her with earlier, apparently. Police arrive and make contact. When they return to the front desk, they advise me I could have her arrested, but she's so intoxicated the jail would refuse her, and they'd end up transporting her to the hospital instead. Also, OM has assured the officers OM sis is going straight to sleep, and there'll be no more problems. Silly me, I agree to let her sleep it off in the room, knowing in the AM we were kicking the three of them out. 25-ish minutes go by, and I get a call from the ROM next to OM about people yelling and arguing. I call OM and advise her this was enough. I'm getting complaints. She begs and again assures me they're all going to bed right now. There'll be no more issues. Again, I let my better side agree to let them stay. 20-ish minutes go by, and another call from the room next door saying it sounds like people are through things at the wall. Now I'm fully done. I head up, bang on the door, and OM answers. I advise her she and her friends have 10 minutes to be at my front desk with all their belongings and room keys, or the police will be coming again. And not only will all three end up trespassed, I'll insist the police take OM sis for disturbing the peace and trespass after warning. She tries to apologize, but I cut her off saying 10 minutes and return to the desk. A few minutes later, OM sis walks by the desk with her belongings and leave. I actually give OM 15 minutes then head back up to the room. OM and DG are now playing the slow pack stalling game, hoping since I saw OM sis leave I'll just forget about them. Nope, police get called third time. OM and DG come to the desk about 15 minutes later, right before the police arrive. As OM goes to leave, I say to her, originally I was going to call your GM and ask them to talk to you about keeping control of your people when you travel using the employee discount. But since you decided to play games at the end, I'll be filing a formal complaint with Marriott Corporate in your hotel's management company. Pretty sure you're about to be without a job. She just looks at me and walks out. I go up, rekey the room, and check out the room. There was a small damage to the wall, and the room was trashed, but not enough to take it out of circulation. A bit later, a couple of police officers come in and say OM called them stating we have her iPhone. I check our lost and found and nothing's listed. I also let them know I was just in the room, and no phone was left there. So about an hour later, I take a walk outside on our front patio, and there's OM casually sitting there. I'm just stunned. I advise her I'll call the police for the fourth time if I see her or her friends anywhere near the property again. She runs her mouth but does leave. The second story is getting the entire management team fired. First off, this was 19 years ago, when I had only been in the workforce for 3 years. My best friend helped me get a job at a restaurant that he worked at. This was a huge national family restaurant chain, still in business. I was initially hired as a host, which wasn't exactly interesting or fun, but it was fine. Each restaurant is run by a team of managers. It was then, presumably it still is, as follows. Service, which runs the waitstaff. Kitchen, which is obviously in charge of the kitchen and all the cooks. Front of house, I think they had a different name for it, but I can't remember, which was in charge of hosts and all things up front, and then general manager to oversee everyone. So I was a host, and my FOH manager was Mike, whom I despised. He just always seemed like shady dude who would stab you in the back for $1, even though I didn't have any direct evidence for that. So years goes by and I want to move on to the waitstaff. Mike sits me down to talk about it, and the conversation literally goes, "So you want to be a waiter?" Yes. Mike takes off his glasses and stares me in the eyes. "You will never be a waiter." No explanation, he just decides nope. So I go over his head a week later to the GM Tony, and immediately says, okay, sure. Just like that, I become a waiter, and this breeds absolute contempt in Mike. Meanwhile, there's manager shuffling, and Mike becomes the kitchen manager, so I don't see him as much anyway. Now, this restaurant is the definition of a corporate restaurant. Didn't shave before your shift and you look a bit scruffy? They will send you to the store to buy a razor on your dime, make you shave in the bathroom before they allow you to work. Want to wear Doc Martens? Okay, but you have to take a Sharpie and black out the yellow stitching. Stuff like that, but to the tiniest minutia. It became maddening. I started having anxiety attacks and panicky nightmares about work. Typical waiter ones where the restaurant fills up and you're the only waiter on hand. Stuff like that. It's hard to adequately explain now, but if you've ever been in a situation where you're burnt out on the small things and you'd rather drive your car into a telephone pole on your way to work than suffer through another shift, as I'm sure you all have, you get the idea. This was how the entire staff felt, not just me. But we were all just 20-somethings with bills to pay who needed a job, so we just dealt with it. So one day we're told that we get to evaluate the management team. This was new. Everyone on staff got a paper to fill out anonymously, where we go to rate everything from I feel respected by my manager to I like working here. And then at the end we were given a few blank lines to write in whatever we wanted to. Well, holy F, we all went to town. You can imagine the responses we gave. We absolutely eviscerated every aspect of the management team. All their infighting, backstabbing, corporate nonsense, all their snide comments, their sexism, their favoritism. Everything. I know I personally filled up all the blank lines they gave me, then continued into the blank margins around the edge of the paper. We just went for it. About a month later, things went really bad for them. Corporate freaked out and started investigating everything and everyone. Interviewing us, watching as we worked, auditing paperwork, they started discovering some very significant discrepancies. Mike was the first to go. The company had switched liquor distributors at one point. At the end of one night, every last ounce of liquor was to be dumped down the drain and replaced by the new company the next morning. Wasteful, certainly, but that's how restaurants are. Well, Mike was the closing manager that night and decided to just take home the entire bar. He had the kitchen staff load literally everything into his van instead of dump it. Thousands of dollars worth of booze. He would also order extra food for the restaurant and just take it home. Then he had the audacity to claim that the waste was the kitchen staff screwing up. He assumed because they were all Latino and probably not legal, that they would just get fired, and that would be that. But they held strong and rallied together, and Mike was fired immediately. There was probably more that I never found out about. But the investigations continued. They discovered that the wine inventory was exceptionally inaccurate, and they couldn't figure out why. I'm not sure if they ever did, though they probably assumed it was all of us on the waitstaff stealing bottles. They might not have been wrong. So one by one, each manager is let go, until finally the GM's the only one left. He only had 2 or 3 years left till retirement with full pension and benefits. He talked about it all the time. Nope, terminated, and everything was taken from him, which honestly, I felt kind of bad for that. He was a decent guy with a good heart, just oblivious. If you're curious about what happened afterward, the district manager took over our restaurant while they found new managers. Everything became even more strict, even more corporate. The new managers were the ultimate in micromanaging. There was zero tolerance for anything against the rules. People being fired for drinking out of kids' cups instead of the paper cups we were provided. And me? Yours truly was eventually let go for stealing a to-go salad that was going to be thrown away. By that point, I just didn't really care anyway. Kind of amazing though. They throw away thousands of pounds of salad every day, and couldn't ignore one small one for an employee. A year later, the service manager got a hold of me, trying to hire me for a new place he worked at. I didn't take the job, but I asked about Mike, and found out that after he had been fired, he couldn't find a job anywhere. He was still unemployed a year after he was let go, and would spend his days fishing at a lake apparently. I can only imagine the mental toll it took on him, and his family for that matter. That was the last I heard of him. And the last story is fired for refusing service to customer on her phone. I was running a coffee cart out of the back of an existing cafe in a busy corporate part of town. Business picked up substantially, and I was on my toes all day every day. A corporate Karen in the line was talking on the phone and didn't acknowledge my greeting. She continued to talk on the phone while I looked at her waiting. I said, "I'll let you finish your call. Next," and gestured to the next in line. She finished her call and placed her order. I made it promptly. She came back 5 minutes later to tell me how rude I was. I told her that her talking on the phone while she's ordering makes my job a lot harder. Another lady in the line congratulated me on sticking up for myself. That afternoon, I got a call from my boss. She'd received an email from Karen detailing just how rude she thought I was, and what measures she'd take to ensure nobody she knows goes to the cafe. I got fired. I don't care that I got fired. She got the treatment she deserved, and I didn't apologize once. Subscribe, hit the like button, and have a nice day. Thanks for watching.